The popcorn matches just keep coming at the US Open. We have Naomi Osaka versus Karolina Muchova, and we're going to be doing a preview and prediction for this second round US Open 2024 matchup. I can't wait to get into this one. It's a very, very interesting one. Two very exciting players to dissect and also look at in terms of both players coming from a comeback, either injury or in Naomi Osaka's case, of course, having a child and then coming back. So I think it's fair to say both players are not going to be at their best in terms of peak performance, but we've seen some really good flashes from both players in the last 6 months, 6 to 9 months, even a year. And it could be a very competitive and enthralling encounter. Before we do get into it, though, remember to that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating review if you're listening on a podcast platform. So as you can see, our new preview format or prediction format as well, we have teamed up with Matchflow Graphics, and you can see on screen some interesting bits of info, nuggets of information, really, which could be of interest to you guys. I'll go through a few of them. We'll then talk also about the head-to-head. Then I'll break down as well their form. So their form coming into this in terms of tournaments in the last couple of months. And then actually we've got one for the past year, in fact, which is even better. And then I will talk about tactically and strategically how I think it will play out, which I think is what most of you guys will be wanting to listen to. And then we will give you guys the prediction, the predicted winner, and I'll even give you sets, because why not? And you can see on screen that Matchflow have given Osaka the edge. They've given her a 60% chance of winning, 40% to Karolina Muchova. And then in terms of expectation, it's mentality versus injury, even. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's in keeping with the storyline. We're saying that, how does Osaka hold up mentally to coming back to playing on, the biggest stage? And it is the biggest stage because it's the biggest stadium, Martha Ashe, in the world. How does she fare? She looked pretty good against Ostapenko. The form was, I thought, in terms of level, pretty high. And actually, the first set was almost flawless, I think it was actually no unforced errors in that first set, which was really impressive. Karolina Muchova, I mean, she has, been pretty good herself. I mean, she had a pretty tough first round against Katie Volynets, who we've interviewed a couple of times on the channel. Interviewed her at Wimbledon in person a couple of times, and a very driven young American up-and-coming star, but Muchova, very, very good, I thought, as well. So both players, despite maybe not being at their peak performance for the last 6 months, year, their first-round matchups in terms of what we saw was actually very impressive, and it could hopefully mean that we see a pretty entertaining match. In terms of rankings, so Naomi Osaka is number 90 in the world at the moment, and 52 in the world is Muchova's ranking. In terms of peak ranking, Osaka was number 1 in the world, of course, 5 years ago, and Muchova was number 8 in the world, and that was a year ago. Interestingly, if you look, so Osaka's still very young, right? She's 26 years of age, and she peaked at number 1 5 years ago. So that's at 21. And for Muchova, she is 28. So really should be in her prime. And Osaka now again approaching her prime, although it could be a little bit different, the timescale, given also that she had a child. But that's not always the case when we look at Kim Clijsters, who came back incredibly impressive, of course. In terms of coaches, Wim Fissette is Osaka's coach, and Emil Misk is Muchova's. I think we can move on to the form. And how they've looked in previous tournaments. So let's get stuck into that. So in terms of the last few months anyway, Osaka's played 8 tournaments, 9 wins, 8 losses, so a win percentage of 53. For Muchova, she's got 4 tournaments in the bag, only the 5 wins, but 3 losses as well, so 63% win rate. So in terms of win rates, she's looking pretty good. Osaka's only made 1 quarterfinal since April, which was at the Lebema Open, which a grass court tournament, lost to Andrescu. It was a decent run, but no massive wins there. I think what we can say is that at Rome, she had a couple of good wins over Kostyuk and Kasakina. Those are big wins. And then obviously lost to Zheng, who ended up winning an Olympic gold on clay. So no shame in that in the round of 16. So that was a good run. And then at Roland Garros, of course, beat Bronzetti in the first round. And then the Swiatek loss, she had a match point. What could have been beating, the Queen of Clay on her favorite surface and favorite stadium would have been an impressive feat, but didn't manage to do so. Then kicked on, made that quarterfinal in Lebema Open, which is good. But after that, it's been slim pickings. First round loss in Berlin. Wimbledon lost to Navarro in the second round. It's a tough second round. And Navarro, of course, went on to make a deep run at Wimbledon. But yeah, maybe grass is potentially not her favorite surface. And then in the Olympics, she lost to Kerber in the first round as well. Look, I mean, in Canada, she didn't play Cincinnati because she didn't get a wild card, which is pretty bizarre if I'm being honest, but it is what it is. She ended up then going through qualifying in Cincinnati and lost, unfortunately. But in Canada, she did get a wild card to the main draw. She won her first round against Jabeur, really impressive win, lost to Mertens. So, yeah, I mean, going into this, she's in a precarious position. For Muchova, I mean, she played the Rosse International, beat Avanesian and Lynette, and then didn't play the next match, pulled out though. Badosa lost in the first round. I mean, that's understandable in honesty. And then in Palermo, she had a really good run, made the final, lost to Zheng. And then Olympics lost in the first round to Fernandez, which is, again, no real shame in that, really. If we then look at the whole, well, if we look at a 12-year view, it then gets a little bit interesting for me anyway, because you can see here these are main tournaments. So these are Masters 1000 tournaments and also Grand Slams. So these are big tournaments. Now, last year, of course, Muchova made a really good run at Cincinnati and the US Open. She made the final of Cincinnati, lost to Coco Gauff, beating players like Sabalenka, Buzkova, Sakari, Martic, Haddad-Mayer, really good wins. Then made the semi-finals of the US Open. The draw did open up. I mean, she beat Hunter, Freck, Townsend, Wang, Castella. Not really a particularly tough route, but did really well to play at the semi-finals anyway. And then didn't play a tournament all the way up until a major tournament anyway, a Masters 1000, a WTA final, or a Grand Slam, up until Wimbledon, which is pretty. It's disappointing, and it's just injury. There's not really much you can do about it. But if you look then at her tournaments, so 5 tournaments, 11 wins, 5 losses, and a 69% win rate. And as you can see, at Cincinnati as well, lost to Pagula, beat Yastremska in the first round. So she did play a couple of matches in Cincinnati. Then for Osaka, it's been interesting because she made her comeback, which was great, and she's gone full throttle and played all surfaces. Even played the Olympics. I mean, she's been very active, which is a real positive. 7 tournaments, 11 wins, 7 losses, 61% win rate, so slightly lower, but she's played more tournaments. Indian Wells, you can see, so she hasn't made it past the round of 16 of any major tournament, which is Rome, ironically on clay. But some decent wins over people like Svitolina on hard court, Samsonova on hard court as well, which is good. Kostyuk, Kazakina on clay, as we mentioned previously. So form-wise, they're not playing, as I said, their best tennis, but there is some promise, I would say. In terms of the head-to-head is 1-1, and Osaka won the matchup that was on hard, and that was in 2020 in 3 sets, though, so tight match. And then actually the next year, Osaka lost to Muchova in 3 sets in 2021 in Madrid in the round of 32, and then Osaka ended up getting a walkover against Muchova in Miami, so that doesn't count towards the head-to-head. Look, I mean, both these players are extremely exciting. We can now delve into the tactical side of things. It's going to be interesting. Osaka's got arguably the best serve on the women's tour. I think Sabalenka or Rybakina might look at me and say, "I don't think so," and they could be right. But she's definitely up there. She's in terms of her first serve. That is, first serve is just it's phenomenal. When she's making a high percentage, it's really tough to break her. She hits her spots really nicely as well, and she's able to vary it, and she can hit a lot of pace as well and velocity behind it. Muchova also does serve pretty well, but she's more of a spot server. She kind of hits her spots quite nicely. She doesn't have massive power, but she's got some good variation on serve, and it's a little bit different in terms of the the type of serve. Anyway, on return, Osaka's been working on a return. She's been saying it. She has been trying to take the ball early. She's been trying to rush opponents as she should, and she showed some really good promise. If we take the example of the Iga Swiatek match at Roland Garros, there are some really good return points there. Yes, it's on clay, so it's a slower surface, slightly easier to return, of course, than a medium or medium slow hard court, which the US Open is. But I think that's still positive. For Muchova, she's got variation. She can return well as well. She's a pretty all-round tennis player, Muchova. She's got great variety. For Osaka, though, from the back of the court, she possesses the power out of the two, right? She is the powerhouse. She's the one that's going to try and be as aggressive as possible from the baseline, that is, anyway, and try and push and almost bully Muchova on court and use those crazy angles she's able to find at times as well on the forehand and especially on the backhand side. I mean, Osaka, and it is very reminiscent. When you watch Osaka, you do see flashes of Serena, and it's because she does hit that open stance forehand, which is very similar to Serena. And of course, that was her idol growing up. And there is definitely similarities between the two. Her backhand technically looks a little bit different. It looks a little bit more quote unquote traditional than the unique Serena backhand, but she's able to find these crazy angles as well, which is so tough to play against, and she sometimes finds them out of nowhere, and it disrupts the rhythm of an opponent. It puts them on the back foot. It puts them in uncomfortable positions, right? Drags them off court. That's not what they want to be. So that's a real strength of Osaka. And one thing that she seems to be building up is the movement side. I don't think she was ever an elite mover, but she's at least now, I think, at this stage after a comeback, I feel like she's maybe around the average mark for her movement, which is good. Muchova is different. She's in the Ash Barty mold of player. So a lot of variety, and she can hit big off both wings, forehand and backhand. But as we saw from that behind the back shot against volley nets, she has one very good hands. She likes coming forward, which is great. Likes to transition and come to the net. She has a really good backhand slice as well. Utilizes that nicely, and the way that she plays is all about disrupting the opponent's rhythm with variety. For Osaka, it's about power and angles. For Muchova, it is all about variety, and that is her real key, I think. And not just variety, but variety, her touch, and also athleticism. She's a very athletic player, if you watch. And she can slice and dice it when needed. She can vary it up, and it makes it very tough to play against. If Muchova is going to win this match, she needs to make sure that she's being selective about when she transitions and comes forward. She doesn't want to get picked off by Osaka at the net. But I do think it's important that she does come forward. I think Osaka is always best on the front foot. So if Muchova can try and take that away from her and push her back onto the back foot as much as possible, that's where Osaka will start to feel uncomfortable. And that's where Muchova will then be able to transition, come forward. She can use a drop shot. She's got a good drop shot. You use that, try and take advantage of the fact that Osaka isn't an elite mover. She's a good mover. She's not an elite mover. Use that drop shot, drag her to the net. She's not comfortable there. Make sure that she's hitting those backhand slices as well, but varying it as well. Try at times go down the line with the backhand slice, Be brave. Go into that forehand side. Vary it. And not just with the slice, but with her ground strokes. Hit a bit more shape on the forehand. Try and find some angles and match Osaka's angle capabilities. And then be brave coming forward to the net. And she needs to be. And I think we can talk about serving well. Everyone needs to serve well to win. It's very rare that someone serves badly and wins a match against someone who is a solid player right on tour. It's very, very rare. It's very, very rare. Unless they have an incredible returning day, which can happen, and there's a lot of breaks of serve, which, to be fair, on the WTA side does happen as well. But I think for Muchova, she needs to really reach into her variety bag and try and give Osaka lots of different things to think about and make it difficult for her to really adjust and find her rhythm. For Osaka, what's going to be really important is limiting the errors. I think at times, she can go a little bit wild. That first set against Ostapenko was almost flawless, and that's what she needs to do, be dialed in. I think for her, the mental side of things is really important as well. Can she just stay dialed in, just block out everything else, really knuckle down focus, and also be brave as well. But she tends to be brave, to be honest. It's more, can she set it up? And to set up the shots she wants to hit, she needs to serve well, like we were saying, but also return well because she wants to be on the front foot. And Mokova does defend well, but I think for Osaka, she's going to have to be very clever going behind Mokova at times as well. A wrong footer, make her feel uncomfortable in that sense. And also be clinical, I think, in some of the points. Pull the trigger when when she feels that she has that little bit of momentum in a point. Go line first, be the braver one out of the two, and then kind of just almost pummel Mokova at times because that's what she'll want to do and that's what she should do and use those angles. At times, she can use those short angles and they'll be really difficult to combat. So she's not going to come to the net Osaka, we know that. So she has to then use her capabilities from the back of the court. It's very rare she comes forward. She could use a drop shot. Again, not something she utilizes a huge deal. It's going to be her serve and her power and angles from the back of the court that's going to really dictate, how this match plays out. In terms of prediction, I think on a hard court, it's just such a consistent surface. Osaka, I think, really, the fact that she's won 4 slams on it says it all. I think she's going to win, and I think it'll be 3 sets. I think it'll be a tight one. Mokova, of course, Roland Garros finalist. I think she's got the capabilities of winning, but I was very impressed with the Osaka against Ostapenko. The serving display, just the clean striking from the back of the court, the limited errors. It was a real masterclass from Naomi. So I think she'll get it done. I think it'll be a tough match though. And don't count out Mukova because she is a phenomenal talent and it's great to see her back healthy on tour because the women's tour is only better for having her in it. Guys, let me know in the comment section below who you picked and why. Thank you very much. Stay safe and well. I'll see you in the next video.